but also dimensions of our national strength will be brought together. And we have tremendous stimulus now, tremendous stimulus, and we're going for more. We want to do this for the small businesses and the workers.
All right, the Senate scrambling today to make more money available for America's small businesses. And it comes as funds allotted for the Paycheck Protection Program begin to run dry.
Joining us with how the White House is working to put the nation back to work is Director of Communications for the Trump 2020 re-election campaign, Tim Murtaugh. Sir, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate it.
You bet. Good morning.
Of course. Let's take a look at some of these numbers. The Small Business Association loans to the small business owners through this Paycheck Protection Program, $100 billion and 400,000 loans. Where do we stand today?
Well, let me talk about the importance of this program. First of all, the president has two very important responsibilities. He has to protect the health and safety of the American people, and he also has to safeguard the economy, which is why protecting small businesses is so important, because they provide about half the jobs in this country. So the president knows that the money really has to keep flowing to these folks. The idea is to have people not miss paychecks. If they get one of these loans, if the small business gets one of these loans from the Small Business Association and they use the money to keep paying their workers or to pay rent on their physical location, then they don't have to pay the loan back. The loan is forgiven. And so it's important to businesses weren't made and don't have the cash reserves to just close down and sit idle for 2, 3, 6, 9 months at a time. They just aren't built that way. And so the president knows that people have to keep the money flowing to make sure that the economy can come back to life when we're ready.
What do you have to say about what's this problem that you're seeing? I guess Lindsey Graham made a big point of it the last couple of days about employees choosing to take unemployment rather than to stick with the business, because then that complicates the ability of these small businesses to get that loan forgiven. What do they do about that? Well,
the point of the Paycheck Protection Program is to have the small businesses be able to continue to make their payroll. That's the purpose of it.
But if unemployment is more than that number, right, an employee is going to take that higher number.
That's true. People are always going to make the decisions for themselves, what is best for themselves and their families. What I'm telling you is that the purpose of the Paycheck Protection Program is to make sure that small businesses are able to keep paying their employees. And if employees go elsewhere, I'm not sure there's anything you can do to stop people making their personal choices. And perhaps those businesses will be able to find someone else to replace them. The idea is to be able to have the small businesses maintain the cash flow, to be able to maintain their payroll, so they don't have to just absolutely lay people off and force them to go on unemployment. And there are actually, certain requirements to be eligible for unemployment in the first place. And generally speaking, voluntarily separating from your employer is not one of those requirements.
We want to get your response to and your reaction to Bernie Sanders dropping out of the 2020 presidential race, of course, making Joe Biden the presumptive nominee. What do you think about this? And what does it say about socialism?
Well, that's a multi-pronged question. What it says is that the Democrat establishment finally got the candidate that they wanted in Joe Biden, forcing Bernie Sanders out finally in the end. And it also means that President Trump got the candidate that he can destroy in November. But although Bernie Sanders' name won't be on the ballot in November, his policies will be. So I'm not sure it shows much of a victory for capitalism over socialism, because on the issues, Joe Biden, in order to be successful in the Democrat primary process, had to adopt nearly all of Bernie Sanders' proposals. That was the only way he was going to win. So you're going to see things like the Green New Deal and a government takeover of health care and free health care for illegal immigrants and raising taxes on everybody to pay for all that stuff. So the issues are the same, whether it's Bernie or Joe Biden on the ballot. And I think that's what we'll see moving forward as we begin to define Joe Biden as the president's nominee, opponent. Biden has a failed record, and that's what voters are going to be hearing about between now and November.
Okay, Tim, thanks for your perspective on this. We appreciate it.
Sure, thank you.
Have a good day. Politicians pleading with faith leaders.
We can almost guarantee you that in a church, even not a very large church, there will be people who would test positive.
We're live with how states in the heartland are approaching public health ahead of Easter Sunday.
Also, notes of thank you to doctors, nurses, med techs, and ICU nurse from New Orleans.
Long shift.
So great, isn't it? Healthcare workers in one New Orleans hospital are having their days brightened by those inspirational messages written to them by complete strangers on the sidewalks.
That is so cool. Joining us now to share what those messages mean to those who are fighting tirelessly on the front lines of this virus, ICU nurse at Ochsner Medical Center, Amy Finnegan. Amy, it is an honor to have somebody like you on the show who's working so hard. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us today. Tell us a little bit.
Oh, thank you, Jillian Rob.
We appreciate it so much. Tell us a little bit about these messages and what they've meant to you.
So these messages are very simple. It's chalk. It's something that kids, draw with. But every morning, every afternoon when I start my shift, I walk through the sidewalk. Every single morning I hit my path and I see my little notes of inspiration. The weather's been beautiful down here too, so everything has been pretty much intact. So it makes you smile going into work every morning.
You know, you're human like the rest of us, and we've all had these moments where we can't believe, this is what's happening right now. And I'm sure you feel the same. You go home at the end of the day, and I'm sure it hits you like a ton of bricks some days. I'm curious what the moment was for you where all of this really struck you.
Honestly, I've been in this. I am a critical care float pool nurse with Collaborative Staffing Resources Center over at Ochsner. So I have, the beauty of going to the units that have the most need. So as soon as we got, news of the first COVID patient, that's where I went. And I've kind of been there ever since. So it's been an honor. And it's tiring, it's exhausting, but when you're in it, you just have this adrenaline. You know that you have to be there, you have to do it for the patient, you have to be there for your team, and you just get it done. And so, yeah, it's great.
That is something else. As we check out the numbers here, the confirmed cases in Louisiana, and it's been tough, especially in the New Orleans region, 17,000 total cases, 652 deaths. Do you feel, as somebody that is on the front lines of this thing, are you turning some kind of a corner? Can you feel any progress being made?
Every single day that you go in, it's a completely new thing, so we're living in this right now. So all the information is constantly evolving, and as it is evolving and changing, so are we. So every day we learn a little something new, and we are starting to see, some progress on patients, and it's hopeful for us.
Let's take a look at some numbers here. The cases of hospitalized patients here in Louisiana, you can see they've gone down a little bit, about almost 2,000 as of April 7th, and then fewer than that as of April 8th. And then hospitalized cases on ventilators as of April 7th, there were 519, 490 as of April 8th. So that's a near 6% change, 5.5% change. Look, we'll take any bit of, positive improvements we can get in these numbers, that's for sure. Before we let you go, what's your message to America?
My message is just be hopeful, pray, do whatever you need to do to get through the day, stay home, be safe, and just don't take life for granted. This has really kind of hit us like a ton of bricks, and you realize what's important.
Yeah, and a big thanks, I guess, to the person that's drawing the messages outside the hospital, right?
Yep.
Definitely.
Yeah. Amy, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
We really
for what
appreciate
you're doing.
it.
Thank you. Have a great morning.
You too.
25 minutes after the hour now. New guidelines giving some employees sidelined by COVID-19 a green light to head back to work. Dr.
Debbie joins us live to weigh the risks of the CDC's plan and to answer some of your questions.
Are going to the coasts. So the Midwest is taking action.
Ashley Strohmeyer joins us live as social distancing rules are threatening Easter celebrations. Good morning, Ashley.
Good morning, guys. As we all know, the majority of the resources have been sent to the coastlines, but now the middle of the country is starting to feel the effects of COVID-19. A new study by the Harvard Global Health Institute projects nearly 290,000 people in Kansas and Missouri could be in the hospital from the virus, and that's just not enough beds for that many people. Of course, this study is if people in Kansas and the Show Me State do not follow those social distancing and stay-at-home guidelines. As of right now, Missouri has seen a little more than 3,300 cases. Kansas sits at around 1,050 cases. And as Easter Sunday approaches, COVID-19 appears to be putting a damper on a lot of the celebrations. The Ohio governor, who is Catholic, has limited gatherings of no more than 10 people, but has made it very clear religious institutions will be exempt from this ban. He did, however, suggest religious leaders exercise different avenues of worship.
We can almost guarantee you that in a church, even not a very large church, there will be people who would test positive, who already have it. They may not know it. And you're really playing with the lives of your congregation.
But then in Kansas, Republican lawmakers revoked the Democratic governor's executive order limiting gatherings to fewer than 10 people. Republicans in the state ruled it an unconstitutional infringement on religious liberty. Take a listen to what the Kansas governor had to say in response.
What it does have is the ability to undermine and inject chaos into our statewide emergency response systems. What it does have is the ability to confuse and frustrate our local emergency management officials who are already stretched far too thin.
And Vice President Mike Pence added to the conversation, saying he will be attending Easter Sunday service, the same place he's been attending service in weeks past, which is in his living room, which I'm sure a lot of other people will be doing the same, guys.
Certainly. All right, Ashley, thank you so much.
Yep.
Now to this, essential workers exposed to COVID-19 may be allowed back on the job, according to the latest CDC guidelines aimed at getting Americans back to work. Listen to this.
What CDC has done is that we've really looked at the essential workforce and how to maintain that workforce.
The new guidance will hopefully make it clear that there would be an opportunity for those people playing such an incredible role in our nation's response to be able to return to work and to do so safely.
But with cases still on the rise here in the U.S., is this coming too soon? Joining us now to discuss is New York City practicing physician, Dr. Devi Nambiaparampil. Thank you so much for coming on, doctor. We do appreciate it. This is a tricky one.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you, too. It's a really tricky one because these are the people that we need to kind of keep society propped up at this point. What do you make of these guidelines?
Well, whenever you have two sets of rules for two groups of people, I think it gets tricky because we're asking people to stay at home because they might not have symptoms and still be infected with the coronavirus. And some of the studies show that maybe 50% of people don't have a fever at all. So when you suddenly change that for essential workers and say, no, it's safe for them to return to work, that gets a little more concerning. Now, the CDC might have done this because we need to get food to people. We need to get medications to people at home. We need to have healthcare workers at the hospital to be able to take care of the sick. So they're looking at it from that perspective. But if you look at it from the perspective of an employee who might be concerned about their coworkers, are we protecting them and the people who are interacting with them? Or are we trying to allow companies to justify unsafe working conditions for their employees?
Right. Let's take a look at some of the guidelines here. And it starts with taking your temperature before work. Obviously, most people have been doing that. Wear face masks at all times. Practice social distancing. Stay home if you feel sick. Don't share objects used near face. No, don't congregate in crowded break rooms. I mean, look, some of this is hard to do, every minute of every day. Like you're talking about wearing a face mask, but then you can't take a sip of water. There's just things here that I feel like the line's going to be blurred a little bit as to, I don't know, if this is really going to work, or is this going to slow the progress we're already making?
Exactly, because if you have one person who's infected, even if they're wearing a mask, they're still using their hands. So if they wear gloves, they still touch different surfaces. At some point, they have to take off that mask, like you said, to eat or drink something. So it's very tricky. I mean, I hear from colleagues across the country about some of the unsafe working conditions that they have to deal with. So I think it's very concerning for many people because they're placing their own health and their family members at risk. And even for the public that interacts with these folks, they may feel a little bit more alarmed that essential workers may be actual carriers of the virus.
Yeah. Right. And like you said, the asymptomatic carriers is the whole problem. I mean, that makes it a really strange guideline here. Let's get to some questions here, doctor, because we love doing these questions. People have them. From Shelley, say I have COVID-19, but I am asymptomatic. Just talking about it. How long am I able to spread this virus?
So according to the data that we have, we think it's within 14 days. Now, a lot of that is unclear, but that's the justification for the 14-day quarantine if you've had an exposure.
Wow.
Now, here's a question from Michelle, who asks if a person is diagnosed and recovers from coronavirus, even if they now have the antibodies and are considered immune, can they still potentially pass it on?
Well, it depends. So there are two sets of antibodies. So as soon as you get infected with something, your body tries to start fighting it, and that's an antibody called IgM. So during that time, you may still be able to spread it. But once your body has actually defeated the virus, it produces a different type of antibody called IgG. And once you have that, it's much less likely that you would be able to spread it.
Okay, let's get one more from Rosalie here. A quick answer, if we could. I am 21-year-old female with a heart condition. I want to know if I am at high risk because I have this heart condition, even though it's not a heart disease. What do you tell Rosalie?
The people that are at highest risk are the ones who have a problem with their heart pumping. So if this condition is completely different, like a childhood murmur, something called mitral valve prolapse, it's probably unrelated. But if you have a problem with the way that your heart is able to pump blood and pump oxygen, then it might be more of a concern.
Okay, Dr. Devi, as always, thank you so much for that information. It's so important right now. Appreciate it. In the U.S. Border agents will start seizing exports of personal protective equipment to fight the coronavirus. CBP will prevent items like respirators, surgical masks, and gloves from leaving the country. FEMA will then decide whether the equipment should be returned, purchased by the government, or exported.
Well, young people should not underestimate coronavirus. A warning from 18-year-old Dimitri Mitchell recovering from COVID-19. Look at how hard it hit him in this video here. He joined us earlier talking to Jillian about his symptoms, saying it felt like he was hit by a truck.
Started out mild cough, and then it progressively got worse over a few days. And on the fourth day, the bad symptoms started coming. I started getting warmer, and I started breaking out into sweats. My cough had gotten really bad, and I started experiencing like the worst headaches I've ever felt in my life. Just honestly couldn't believe that it affected me like that.
Iowa teen not 100% about where he got the virus, but maybe after traveling with friends, he says. Otherwise, healthy 18-year-old. It really was something.
He also said he works at a grocery store.
Right.
So
that could have been a big risk, yeah.
Yep, he didn't know. Now to this. Overnight tornadoes and severe storms battering several states across the Midwest.
Yeah, this twister just one of several touching down in Jonesboro, Arkansas. Janice Dean is tracking these storms from her home, and she joins us now. Good morning, Janice. Good to see you.
Good morning. Yes, we have the technology to track these storms from home. So let's take a look at the maps, and I'll show you where the storm reports were across portions of Arkansas, the Mississippi River Valley, as well as the Ohio River Valley, where we had several reports of tornadoes as well as hail and damaging winds. And this is going to be a several-day event, not only today, but through Saturday. And I'm very concerned about Easter Sunday. We could have a severe weather tornado outbreak on Sunday, Easter Sunday. So that's why it's really important to get the word out. There are your current temperatures. It's along this frontal boundary where we're seeing the potential for these stronger storms. The threat today is going to be for mostly parts of southern and central Texas, including Victoria, just outside of Houston, Texas. And that's going to go throughout the afternoon and possibly this evening. So know what to do if there's a watch or a warning in your area. And if you have your NOAA weather radio, make sure that it's on to get your storm reports and your storm watches and warnings. Now, as we head into the weekend, Saturday, across portions of Texas and Louisiana. But Sunday, this is the more, concerning area because we think we could have some long track, large and potentially deadly tornadoes. So that's going to be Easter Sunday. Of course, the good news is a lot of people are going to be inside because we're all social distancing, but just have a place where you get your watches and warnings as we get into the weekend. And the forecast rainfall as well. We're going to see the potential for some very heavy rain over parts of the Mississippi and the Tennessee and the Ohio River Valley. So we'll keep you posted. There's your forecast today. Big warnings for the next several days for parts of the South, my friends. We could see the potential for, a devastating tornado outbreak, especially Easter Sunday. So I want to make people aware of that. And it's always good to see you both.
It's good to see you,
Always
too.
good to see you.
And it is that time of the year with the big storms and the tornadoes. It absolutely is springtime. Janice, thank you so much. Good to see you.
We'll see you soon.
A coronavirus-themed dance battle that's going viral. Watch this.
Put your hands in the air! All two of you! And stay 6 feet apart when you're throwing your hands up in the air. Sanitize!
That dynamic father and daughter duo join us live.
That's going to be good. But first, let's check in with Steve Doocy and see what's coming up on Fox and Friends. Hey, Steve.
Hey, Rob and Jillian. I miss the days of the dance battles. Can't wait for things to get back to normal, but it's going to be a while. All right. It sounds like the peak of this virus could actually hit on Easter Day, which is much earlier than they had earlier predicted. We've got lots to talk about this morning. The Surgeon General of the United States of America, Dr. Jerome Adams, is going to be joining us with a coronavirus update and the very latest on how you can do and what you can do to slow the spread. Plus, with so many businesses impacted and the unemployment rate coming out today at 8:30 Eastern Time, looks like it's going to be another big number. We've got the host of Bar Rescue, John Taffer, who's got advice for small business owners impacted by the shutdowns and other restrictions as well. Also, we got on deck Congressman Kevin Brady of Texas, Jason Chaffetz, Fox News contributor, and former White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders. Also, Tunnel to Tower CEO Frank Siller is going to join us with how they are helping first responders and the families of healthcare workers now who are on the front lines of the pandemic. So we've got a busy 3 hours, kicks off just a little more than 15 minutes right.
Put your hands in the air! All two of you! And stay 6 feet apart when you're throwing your hands up in the air. Sanitize!
The two became an internet sensation overnight, and now they're using the attention to help those most in need connect with their own families right now. That father-daughter duo, Chris and Brooklyn Starkey, join me live. Thanks for being here.
Hey, what's up?
I mean, you guys are pretty impressive. It's pretty awesome. But this didn't start out as a dance battle, right? This started out with care packages.
It did. Yeah, we have a lot of frontline employees that, were out of work. So we were just trying to deliver some care packages. We would always, to isolate, we would say, we don't need to see your face. We just need your address. And we would drop off some fun care packages, not fun, grocery-filled care packages on their doorstep.
Well, that's amazing. So how did it go from care packages to this epic, now seen around the country and the world, dance battle?
Well, we... just like everyone else, we were trying to find some time to, have some fun in the house. And my daughter challenged me to a dance battle. And so, I'm 51 this year, and I'm never one to turn down a challenge. So, we went at it and had some fun.
Brooklyn, talk about your dad's dance moves.
He thinks they're baller. I disagree some days, but you know what? It's all right. He choreographed the number. I learned it in 2 minutes. It was a very interesting experience, but you know what? He has his days where he's very good.
I destroyed her.
I think both of you guys have really good dance moves. Brooklyn, I'm sure that the response from, kids at your school and kids in your neighborhood have been pretty awesome. What are people saying online?
Online, people aren't saying anything. I mean, no one really knows my social media because I'm not on Facebook.
She thinks it's the old platform. So actually, a lot of people are supporting us. They're saying, we've done 3 dances now, and some people say that I won some of them, and sometimes they say Brooklyn won. But we're coming back at you this Monday. It's gonna get crazy.
Well, I love it.
Every Monday.
Because you guys are bringing a smile to so many people's faces right now, and that is so important at this time. What's your message to people who are watching across the country?
We're a firm believer in our family that negativity creates sickness, and we're trying to stay as healthy as possible as a family and find as many ways as possible to create positivity in our home. And if we can, have a father-daughter dance battle, well, we just want to create some fun, and we hope that everyone watching has some fun at home as well, so we can all stay healthy and get out of this together.
Absolutely, and I know that you're still doing the care packages. I know that requests have come in for iPads, so you're doing that as well. If people are watching and they want to help out, how can they reach you?
They can reach me on my Facebook page at just Chris Starkey. I'm in Denver, Colorado. I also have an email address, chris@imprintgroup.com, and we're looking for iPad donations to deliver to ICUs. Hospitals have reached out to us because of the viral video, and there's a lot of elderly and people with pre-existing conditions that are in bad shape, and they can't have any family in the ICUs. Lots of them don't have iPhones and aren't tech savvy, so we're providing iPads for them so they can connect with their family.
Well, Chris and Brooklyn, thank you so much for sharing a little bit of joy with us this morning and for what you're doing for your community. We appreciate it, and we're going to be watching to see what dance comes around next. All right, guys, have a good day.
We love it.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, Rob, that's great.
Got news for Brooklyn. Her dad can dance.
I know, he can.
He can dance. I mean, it gets a lot worse than that when it comes to dads dancing. I've seen much worse. All right, good stuff, guys.